Welcome to the Drivable podcast, our first podcast, where we're going to discuss all things about driving and safer community transport for people with disabilities and medical conditions. This is our first episode, so thanks very much for tuning in. It's very exciting. There's maybe going to be a little bit rough around the edges, but we'll get better as we go and as we get into our, into our groove. So apologies for that in advance. In this episode, we're going to basically introduce ourselves, unpack what we want to do and what is our whole aim behind this Drivable podcast. My name is Akbarian from Mobility Engineering, and I've teamed up with Brad Williams from Williams OT, who's going to be my podcast buddy.
Hey everybody, how you going? Super excited about getting this off the ground, and let's get into it. What do you reckon? Driving is something many take for granted. But when someone has an altered ability, then driving or getting out and about in your own car can be challenging. The Drive Able podcast unpacks the world of driving with a disability so you can experience the freedom that you desire. I'm Brad, and with me is Ali, and together we have over 30 years of experience in driving and disability. Enough with the intros, let's get into it. All right, like we said in the intro, in this first episode, we're going to be talking about the Drive Able podcast. We'll be introducing ourselves, giving you a bit of a background about why we're starting this podcast, and discuss all things driving with a disability. So, Ali, g'day. Yeah. Give me your background. What's going on? Share your background with all the listeners. Why are you excited to do this?
Okay, so first of all, let's start from the beginning. I started as a mechanical engineer with my dad, working in this company, Mobility Engineering. We started working in areas of, just helping people get on the road with whatever way they wanted, any kind of modification they needed. And then throughout the years, the company name got changed to Mobility Engineering, and that kind of inadvertently introduced a new industry to us without us even realizing. We weren't actually doing anything with disability, but people started coming out to us and saying, hey, you guys could do mobility stuff, and being helpful and sort of saying, yeah, well, let's give it a crack. We kind of, one thing led to another and got into it, and we never really looked back. And sort of, I personally, particularly a few years ago, one really big thing, which I found was about 6 years ago, I went to rear care in Germany. And it was a really big life-changing experience for me.
What's rear care, Ali, for all of our listeners?
That's a good point. Rear care is basically the world's biggest disability and mobility products expo. So I went there, and it was like someone lifted a lid on something that I've never seen before. You know, there's so much stuff out there, so many products. And I came back with this hunger to go, you know what, I need to help the Aussies out, and we need to provide more information, more products, more solutions to people, because they're getting shortchanged. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm, doing this as well. I want to share things. I want to share info with people, products with people, knowledge with people. And yeah, my background is around that. And now I basically run Mobility Engineering. And we have a wonderful team of people. And yeah, that's basically the background, is as short as I could put it.
Yeah, I'm sure you could go on for ages.
How'd you become an OT?
Oh, and I could go on for ages about that. I was a baker for 10 years after school because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just got the first job I could. I pushed that to the max, but I wasn't enjoying it. So I was one of those mature grad OTs that kind of probably annoyed all the younger OTs that were coming through. But yeah, I loved it right from the start. And then my final placement was in a hospital with a driving clinic, and I asked to go and have a look at the driving clinic on my last placement. And from that point onwards, I was hooked. I badgered the head of OT there for 2 years. You have to have 2 years driving experience, or 2 years OT experience, before you can do the driving course. And I badgered until they interviewed for somebody, and I was lucky enough to get that position just after 2 years of being qualified as an OT, and I haven't looked back. I have a real passion for this area in regards to helping people be able to maintain, retain, or gain their license with a disability. It's just something that I live every day. Yeah, if you ask my family, they probably think that I'm more interested in driving aids and modifications than them. This is what I do. This is who I am, and I've found my niche. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, to build on that a little bit with me, and I guess to link it to the drivable thing, is driving and cars has always been a really big passion of mine as well. I've actually I got my license when I was 17, like literally on my 17th birthday, and I think I've collectively, my car right now is about 260,000 kilometers. My car before that was 280,000 kilometers, and the one before that was about 280,000 kilometers. So I love to drive. I've clocked between all my cars probably close to 1 million kilometers of driving so far, and I'm not even 40 yet. But it's because, like, it's funny. Like, I can drive for sometimes 18 hours straight. Like, I've done it, and it's just, I'm alive. And the reason why I love it, and this is why I really love working with this in this industry, is that feeling of freedom and independence. You know, when someone once said to me when I was younger, and it really stuck with me as well, if you had a choice between buying a house and buying a car, everyone will tell you to buy a house, but I'm telling you buy a car, because a car will give you adventure, it'll give you life, it'll give you, you know, it'll get you out there. But a house, you'll be stuck in one location, you know, and that really resonates with me, you know, and that's what I want to give our clients, is the ability to understand that, hey, this car gives you freedom and independence and gets you out there.
Hey mate, you're just to let people know, you're in Sydney, and I'm in Adelaide, and we're doing this via Zoom. So all of these podcasts will be on Zoom as well. So there'll be a video recording. But just getting back to your point, you're saying that, and you're in Sydney. I mean, your transport around Sydney is with trains and so forth is just way above what we've got in Adelaide. And in Adelaide, we're so spread out, and it takes forever to get somewhere by bus. The bus system is, sometimes they don't rock up. You know, they're running late and so forth. They're cancelling bus services, especially where I live. And the train system is, you know, there's 5 main lines, I think it is, which is hardly anything at all. So we rely on our car heavily here in Adelaide, unless you live in the city. I just was helping a client who lives in the city, and she said it's fantastic. She didn't really want to get her license, other than the fact she couldn't get to see her family up in Mildura, or she couldn't visit her family up in Stirling when she wanted to. But other than that, she could get anywhere else. But if you live in the suburbs, it's much, much harder to get places.
Yeah, and even engaging with the public transport, it's hit or miss anyway. You know, you're going to get onto a bus, and who knows if the bus driver is going to help you get on, particularly if you're disabled, you know, in a wheelchair or something. You know, that's also, like, I've been at train stations and people waiting there for someone to come out with a ramp, and no one comes out, and they just miss the train, you know, and so yeah, that's also part of it. So this gives you back to that kind of independence. So
that's why we're doing it, isn't it?
That's it. And I guess maybe we should keep it moving. Share with people the goal of what we want to try and achieve with this podcast, I guess, or our personal goals around it.
Go for it. What's your personal goal?
So for me, again, going back to what I was saying before, I love sharing information. I love empowering everybody to be strong together as a community, and what I want to do is really, with this podcast, is share that message, the message of like an important message of possibility, hope, and empowerment. So basically, people can see the stories that we've shown them based on people that we talk to, stories that we've had with our own experience, that shows that with a bit of, there is a possibility out there to do what you want, with a little bit of hope and faith, you and your community working with you, you can be empowered to achieve what you want, you know, and I really want to, I guess, seeing stories of that excites me. And so I really want to meet people and discuss that and share those stories and hear about them. And I think this vehicle will bring those stories to us. So that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. And we've got a really exciting episode coming up as our first next episode. So the number 2, we've got an interview with somebody who's out there and driving and living their life to the fullest with their car. And I can't wait for that next episode.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting.
It is. It is. So, Ali, who do we want to listen to this podcast?
So really, I mean, anyone engaged directly with the industry. We did a little bit of just to bring you guys behind the curtain. Brad and I did a bit of a planning session where we sort of thought about who is this ideal person that we want to be talking to. Some of the professionals teach you to do that, and so really, it's everything's all about the end user. Really, that's really where it comes to. And the people that have these abilities and disabilities and basically people that need the assistance. And the idea is they are the center, they are the client, everything is client focused around them. And again, anyone who is working with those people would also have a huge benefit because they can understand what's going on. So people like occupational therapists, allied health professionals, modifiers, NDIS people, anyone that's really working within this industry and has a link to somebody that would be in a wheelchair or needing some kind of assistance in terms of transport, you're going to get some value out of this podcast.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter who listens to this, and some episodes are going to be appropriate for some people, and then the next episode might not be. So to give an example, one episode we might be talking about hand controls, and then the next episode we might be talking about left foot accelerators, or we might be talking about driving with autism, or we might be talking about wheelchair lifts for the back. So not every episode is going to be for every person, but we're hoping that you can find the information that you need to get you out and about on the road. Yeah. And
ultimately, actually, one of the big, I guess, aims and out and about on the road will be basically to try and get you to go out and try something. Try a product out, trial something, and actually give it a go. So for me, that would be a great success if someone listens to this and goes, you know what, there's a possibility, maybe I can give that a try. And that would really be something pretty good to achieve out of this.
We want to introduce you to products that maybe you haven't really heard of. Products, driving techniques, a new way of testing or finding out a new way to be able to drive. So you can get excited because I know, Ali, you've seen this as well. There's so many people out there driving in inappropriate cars that they've held on for years and years and years, and really old technology, and they could really benefit from understanding what's out there. So the next time that they upgrade their car or technology, they can get the best out there. But then there's also the people that are coming through and hopefully going to get their license for the first time or get out and about after a new injury for the first time.
Yeah. And also, just to kind of add to this isn't just about driving as well. So like you can also be a passenger and have someone drive for you. And there is multiple aids to get you in and out of the car and secure you in your vehicle as well. So whilst it's called drivable, there is, as I often tell people, there is 4 other seats in the car as well on top of the driver. So there's a lot of possibilities for you to be transporting around if you can't drive. So because I have had that feedback sometimes from people. Is like, oh well, I can't drive, so I can't go somewhere, and so on. And that doesn't mean that you can't. It just means you need to work closer with your community to get that support. And get your vehicle or whoever's vehicle or whatever it is fitted out to get you going. So that to me is exciting as well, because you're kind of linking people together to help and support each other.
Yeah. So how this is going to run, Ali, we've discussed this. We've mapped it out for the next little bit. We're going to be releasing an episode every 2 weeks. So there'll be two a month. And if it develops from there, it might be once a week after that. Depending on the excitement that we get from everybody and the time that we can find to make this available to everybody. And one week we might be interviewing somebody with a disability, or someone like an OT or an engineer or a modifier, somebody from the NDIS. We'll open it up to anybody. So if you've got a story that you'd like to share about driving or getting out and about in the community in a car, make sure you get in contact with us. Make sure that you reach out. There's so many great stories out there about how people use their cars. So we'd love to hear it. So we'll be doing a mix of interviews and a mix of more technical stuff, behind the scenes stuff. And yeah, next week we kick it off with an interview with a driver who's out there racing his car. It's a great story.
Yeah. It's really exciting. And yeah, to follow up from what Brad was saying is really, from my experience, and I'm sure Brad will second this as well, the sharing of the stories is what empowers the community, because people, particularly in our industry, and this is why I'm so passionate about this, is in our industry, the clients generally tend to think a lot more negatively than positively. And they generally tend to think that they can't rather than they can. And this generally, I mean, I'm generalizing, but it comes from, having lots of barriers, and it's subtle barriers. Even if you turn up to a building and it's not accessible, there's a message that building is telling you that you can't come in, and so that message over, 1, 2, 5, 10, 30 years starts to embed into your mind. And so someone can tell you, hey, this is possible, but you just won't believe it and you won't buy it until you actually see somebody doing that. And so that's what we've had many cases where we've gone and actually shown videos on our phone or something at a trial to say, hey, look, someone is doing this, it is possible. And then once they see that, they go, okay, well, yeah, it is possible. So yeah, that by sharing your story, you're helping the community, basically empowering the community to see what is possible.
Yeah, and what we'll do is this is an Audible platform, so we'll be talking about practical things. So what we'll do in the show notes is we'll put a link through to some videos as well, some videos that we've recorded in the past or some new videos to go with what we're talking about in that session. So anytime that you want to actually get a visual of what we're talking about, we'll put through some photos and some videos in those show notes. So make sure that you go and check that out if you need more information. All right, Ali, every interview we do, we're going to ask the person that we're interviewing some detailed questions to get a little bit more information. So that could be anyone from people with a disability through to maybe an NDIS delegate or an OT or an engineer. Hopefully some politicians. We're going to ask them these set questions every time, and we'll just ask them so we can experience their stories. So I'm going to ask you. You're going to be the first one to answer this question. At the end of every show, we're going to ask, what can you do with your car that you couldn't otherwise do? And cars can be more than transport from A to B. What's one thing you've done in your car that nobody else knows?
Oh, that's a good question. In my car, well, there's two things I'll say. The first one will be probably the more silly thing, that on 2 occasions, I've got a diesel car. On 2 occasions, I've put the wrong fuel in the car and driven it. So that's and I don't like to admit that to many people because I'm supposed to be an expert, an automotive engineer. And the second time that happened was there was a girl that actually was in front of me in a car asking me how to put fuel in her car. So I went and taught her, and then I started panicking, going, "Oh, you're doing the wrong fuel in your car." And she looked at me and she goes, "No, you are," as I'm filling it up. And I was like, "Oh no," So that was an interesting one. And then and also my car has been basically everywhere around New South Wales. I've been to Broken Hill and back, and I've hit a kangaroo with it, and done $11,000 worth of damage. So yeah, that was with a 4-wheel drive Ute. So there you go.
Yeah, I've been there. I ripped the clip off of my fuel line, and the fuel line was bouncing around underneath the car. I thought I was in all kinds of trouble, but I got really lucky when same trip to Broken Hill, but coming from the opposite direction. Yeah. So I'm gonna have a go at these same questions, just so everybody gets to know me a little bit as well. So, what can I do in a car that I couldn't otherwise do? It's my job. So that I cannot do my job without a car. We travel all over the place with the car, with our modified car, taking it to people to help with exactly what we've been talking about, is giving people that trial in these rural locations like Broken Hill, like right over to the Eyre Peninsula and Port Lincoln and so forth, which is an 8-hour drive from Adelaide. So getting out and about in the community so people can trial these modifications. And like we've said, this podcast is another way to get people inspired to really think about what's available for them. Yeah. Cars are more than transport from A to B. What's one thing you've done in your car that nobody else knows?
Yeah, that's interesting.
I can let people know that, you know, my now wife and we used to use my first car. She didn't have one, to get to know each other better. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, you can use your car for all kinds of things. And we were.
I've used my car as a. Now that you said that, I've used it as on both sand and on the road when it was flooding as a towing vehicle, like a boat. And I had when we were on sand, I had friends with a rope on the back on a boogie board that was surfing on the sand as I was towing them. And then when these are in my younger years, when I used to live on the Central Coast, there was a really big flood one time, and there's this strip where right next to the strip for about 3 kilometers, it all floods. So I had a guy next to me on his it was actually on his wakeboard, and he was wakeboarding and he had a rope connected to my car, and he was wakeboarding on the side of the road. So he was a pro wakeboarder. So there you go. You can even do wakeboarding with your car.
It's so much more than just transport, isn't it? It gets you to do things that you can't otherwise do, and that's what we'll be discussing each week.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I think we should probably wrap that up. All right, that's it for the episode. Thanks very much for tuning in, guys. Thank you, Brad, for your time. And I look forward to catching up with you guys next time.
All right. And if people want to get in contact and give us feedback, we really welcome the feedback. You can find us on Facebook, where most of our content and information is going to be on Facebook. Just go to Facebook and search at Drive Able Podcast, and it'll take you over to where we are, and we'll have the information there, show notes and all that kind of information over there. So yeah, as we say in every episode, if you have any queries about what you can do and what will work for you, get in contact with your local OT or mobility dealer and set yourself up with a trial. Trials really do put you in the driver's seat.
Yeah, 100%. The trial is what makes it all possible. So give it a go, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
See you in the next episode. See ya. Thanks for listening to the Drive Able podcast with Brad Williams and Ali Akbarian. If you like what you've heard, make sure you like, rate, and subscribe. It really does make a massive difference. If you or anyone you know would like to share a story about driving with a disability, or you would like to get in contact, find the show notes, or find the resources mentioned in this episode, you can find us on Facebook. Just search at Drive Able Podcast for more information.